Hey guys, my guest tonight is a surprise guest. Will the guest be here, or will I end up reading a book, or maybe telling ghost stories? Tune in 5 minutes to find out. Grab your popcorn and snacks. Find a comfy spot, take a seat or lie down, and let me transport you to a place of fantasy, ghost stories, ancient legends, odd creatures, alien encounters, and other magical topics. You may even decide to join the conversation. From faraway lands to your own backyard, with a small dash of pixie dust. Turn out the lights and open your minds. The journey is about to begin. Good evening, everybody. Hang on. You know what? I forgot to turn my light on. Look at that. How's everybody doing tonight? Good evening, everybody. How's everybody doing tonight? My name is Charlotte. I'm going to be your host for the next hour. It's great to be here. Let me go ahead and hit this other button here. We are going live on Facebook, Twitter, YouTube, and TikTok tonight. Let's hear it for the TikTok folks. Yeah, see, that's the issue. I'm gonna be talking to you guys and the TikTok at the same time. The issue I have here is that the only times I can do lives with TikTok is when, okay, my guest isn't coming tonight because of weather issues, which doesn't surprise me because there are a lot of weather issues out there. So unfortunately, no guest. However, I am not going to read a book tonight. I was thinking about reading the book if something went wrong. I've changed my mind. Every night and then during the day, I get on TikTok and I tell ghost stories about investigations that the team's gone on and what we've experienced. And so I thought, let's do that tonight, right? And then I can bring the TikTok gang in. So the TikTok gang is over here. Hello, everybody over at TikTok. Now, same rules apply. If you're watching from Facebook or YouTube and you like what you see, hit that like button. And if you haven't followed us already, follow or subscribe. There's a little ghost in the bottom right-hand corner over here. See, I'm pointing at it. See? Okay. I'm pointing at it and click on that, and that will subscribe you to our videos. There's 480 videos, more than that actually sitting over there of different topics. Okay. So if you would do that, that'd be great. Twitch, same thing. Now, TikTok. You guys over on TikTok. If you like what you hear tonight, follow me and tap that screen. I'd like to get 1,000 likes tonight on TikTok. Think we can do that? Think we could do 1,000 likes tonight? Let's try and get 1,000 likes tonight. Just keep tapping that screen. And if we get to 1,000, let's shoot for 2,000. All right? Let's try for 1,000 likes every 10 minutes and see how it goes. So that means in what? 40, see, every 10 minutes tonight for this hour, we're going to do 1,000 likes. All right? So just keep tapping that screen. Keep tapping that screen. Anyway, yes, because of weather-related issues, my guest can't be here tonight. But that's okay. Now, to explain what's going on TikTok here is that I'm trying to get to where we can actually interview guests and you can hear the guests on TikTok that I'm interviewing. But I haven't got the technology to do that yet. So I have to do it like this. I see you guys, and the issue is you're way over there, so I can't read the screen. Same thing with what I'm doing over here, because I got two screens going here. Got two sets. All right. So my name is Charlotte. I'm also the owner. My name is Charlotte. I am the owner of the California. Oh, my God. My name is Charlotte, and I'm the owner of the California Haunts Paranormal Investigation Team based out of Sacramento, California. I'm also your host tonight. Yeah, I'm your host because I'm the host with the most. Corny, huh? Things we do for TikTok. Anyway, my team is 45 strong up and down the state of California, and we actually go out and do paranormal investigations. Isn't that cool? So if you have a paranormal issue in California, let me know. You can get me on TikTok. You can get me on Twitter. You can get me on Facebook. You can get me on YouTube and Instagram. I am Ghosty Gal, all lowercase on Instagram. Follow me on Instagram. Come on, keep tapping. Let's get those 1,000. Let's get the first 1,000 every 10 minutes. But give me 1,000. And on YouTube, you can find us at youtube.com/@ California Haunts Radio. All right, because we are a legitimate radio show. We do we're on the air Sunday through Friday. We do shows. Okay, but like I said, for you TikTok folks, since I can't interact with the computers and stuff, so that you can hear my guests, the only shows we're going to be doing for now until I get it all figured out is these where I'm just talking, or where I'm reading the book or I'm talking. Because if you go back to if you're able to go back and look, I have two already where I've read books, and then I've done one-on-ones with you guys. I decided to do a one-on-one with everybody tonight. Okay, just keep tapping that screen. Keep tapping that screen. Show me your likes. Anyway, like I said, since I don't have a guest tonight because of weather, we're just going to go ahead and tell stories. And some of these stories you guys have heard, some of these stories you haven't heard. But I've been a ghost hunter for almost 25 years. I was with another team to start out, And then I was filming another team. I was filming a TV show called California Haunts. And the TV show came out the same time as another TV show you might know called Ghost Hunters. We all came out at the same time. Pretty cool, huh? Come on, keep tapping the screen. I don't see any hearts going up. Come on, show me some love. And I had a lot of adventures filming that show. A lot of adventures. In that I learned how ghosts can affect equipment. Because you hear stories about ghosts and draining batteries. You hear that stuff all the time. That's true. Man, you go through so many batteries on an investigation. Before I do an investigation, I buy like probably $30 in batteries. I've got a big box I carry of batteries because you will go through batteries like crazy during an investigation. And it goes the same for your video cameras. The weirdest things happen with video cameras. We used to film, and we probably still film out on location with the Sony TRV-740 cameras. At one time, we used to work with Public Access Station in Woodland, and we used to film ghost hunts like out in Yolo County and stuff. And we used to use these cameras because they were the broadcast quality ones that they were using at the public access stations. And what would happen during investigations is that you would, and I just didn't buy the little batteries. I had the big, thick batteries, with the extra power. And you would put these things on, and during the investigation, you would see the battery drop from 100% all the way to 0. And then they pop back up suddenly. So the psychics we had out with us on these things would tell me that's the ghost draining the battery in the video camera. But that's what was cool about it, was you could actually physically see with your eye. You could see these things draining all the battery power out. And I said, well, what do I do? And the psychic looked at me and said, oh, that's easy. Just tell them to stop. And I thought, okay. So every time the camera would drain or start to drain, I would tell the ghost to stop, but I'd have to be really forceful about it, stop doing that. And then the power would go back up. Go figure, right? All right, keep tapping those screens if you like these stories. If you like real ghost stories, these are real ghost stories from the California Haunts files. And we have done a lot of stuff. The other thing these cameras will do is they will get blurry if there's a ghost, because autofocus, because I'm a blind bat, right? So I got to use autofocus. If the ghost comes near the cameras will blur up. And I've had a lot of experience with that. And that's why I call these particular cameras the ghost trackers, because they do that. And I can tell you from experience, I told the story the other day about a particular psychic that was sitting in a rocking chair in this room, and I was filming. And I filmed for about 15-20 minutes with her. And she was telling the story, doing a channeling session, telling the story of this woman who was pregnant and her husband was cheating on her down the hall with somebody else. All dead, of course. And while she's rocking, when she rocks back, she's clear. When she would rock forward, she was blurry. And this kept happening. And if you hear me on camera, I mentioned it to her, and she says, yes, I know, I sat in something. And I said, what do you mean you sat in something? And she says, well, I didn't want to let her in all the way. So what I'm doing is I'm slowly rocking back, and then I'm rocking into her, and then I'm rocking back away from her. And I got this footage for probably about 15-20 minutes. Fascinating footage. And someday, once we have the capability for TikTok and Facebook, I will show you guys this footage. It's tremendous footage. It's the first time I really experienced that with that particular camera. At that level. Same night, they went into a room to talk with somebody. I don't know who the hell they were talking to. And I was stuck in the hallway, so I sat down in this chair, and I was just kind of hanging out. I wasn't really doing anything. Had the camera kind of sitting there on, and I noticed out of the corner of my eye, I see something blurry at the end of the hallway through the camera. And I thought, well, maybe the camera, or an old building. And the blur thing starts coming towards me. I can track it with the camera as it's coming down the hallway. So I'm trying to be really cool because it's like 11 o'clock, 12 o'clock at night. And I'm trying to be really nice because, there's the hotel, you know, clients are sleeping and stuff, and I'm trying to kind of loud whisper, like what they call the stage whisper, right? Hey, right? There's something in the hallway with me. And no one came out of the room. So I tracked this with the camera. I did not film. I wasn't filming because it happened so fast. I didn't even think to hit the record button on the camera. See, I was still a young investigator at this point. So I didn't think to hit the record button on the camera, right? So I tracked it all the way down the hallway. I could feel the cold breeze as this thing went by, and then it went around the corner, down towards the room that they were in, and went through the door. And then when they came out, I said, "Hey, I don't know what this was, but I tracked something down the hallway with the camera." Oh yeah, it was her, and she was angry. Really? Same night, around 3:30 a.m. Same night. The gal and I are both photographers, so we're taking photos after the investigation. We're just like in relax mode. We're in this hallway. Don't want to wake anybody up. We're just taking some real cool shots. Like there's some rooms where the lights are coming, the light shining from behind the door, and you can see it in the crack, and you're trying to get those real creepy photos. All of a sudden, we hear these footsteps come towards us, and I mean these were like fast, angry, poundy footsteps. So we're looking around and we're thinking, well, it's an old hotel. It's got wooden floors. They've got people might be up walking around. Who knows what it is? They come towards me, these footsteps, and they stop right in front of me. And at that point, I got this vision of this woman, this blonde-haired woman, a shorter woman with a kind of a rounded face, looking at me really angry. And I looked at her, and the first thing I thought of to say is, "I don't have a beef with you." She disappeared, and I heard the footsteps continue around me to where my friend was. Now my friend had been setting up a tripod to take a real nice night shot. I watched the tripod, and so did she. The tripod lifted 3 feet off the ground and was thrown down the hallway. Broke the camera. We both saw it. We both witnessed it. I mean, it's things like that happen that you don't believe actually happen when these investigators go out. Now, do they happen all the time? No, they don't happen all the time. Ghost hunting can be really boring. Believe me, it's not like TV. It can be really, really boring. But these things do happen. Same place. My partner who was filming that day with me, we were down having dinner in the dining room. There's a picture of him with a hand reaching through his head at the back. You can clearly see the head. You can see this part of the arm and the hand going in, right into his head. Freaked him out. Freaked him out. But that stuff happens. You know, we go to my team, once I split from them and we just started to do our own thing, we go to this town called Columbia. And the name of the hotel right now just kind of blows me away. I have no clue. So we're driving up, and it's all twisty roads going up to this place. If you guys know where the famous Yosemite Park, right? The famous Yosemite Park. This is about, I don't know, about 30 miles from Yosemite. So we're driving up this little road, going up there, and we suddenly feel really cold in the van. And my friend is getting sick. One of our investigators is starting to get nauseous. And I thought, oh my God, we've driven through something. Here's a hint. I have a game for you guys to play in the summer, okay? If you're driving, say it's really hot, okay, and you're driving down the freeway, what you want to do is roll the windows down in the car. Because at some point on that freeway, you may feel, and I'm not going to say you're going to feel it, I'm saying you may feel a cold spot. And what I did over the years, because of being a newspaper reporter and everything else, and crime beat reporter, is I would go down these freeways because sometimes I didn't have air conditioning in my vehicles. And I would go back and get in the archives of the newspaper and look stuff up and find out that there was a fatal accident in that spot. So sometimes that energy lingers and you can pick it up as you're driving through. Try it. I'm telling you, it'll work. Works every time. Anyhow, we're driving up this road and I'm feeling cold. She's getting sick. And Nancy Matz, bless her soul, Nancy Matz, who's on the show as a regular, and I've known her for years. I get on the phone. I'm talking to Nancy Matz. And she says, there's someone in the backseat of the car. Someone from the hotel. Because we were headed for a hotel. And I said, okay, what do we do? She said, well, ask him to leave. So I asked him to leave. But we weren't that far away from the hotel. So we get to the hotel. He's still in the car with us. We can still feel him in the car. He finally gets out of the car. We yell. We kick him out of the car. Good way to kick. Anything you pick up on the road like that, you can just yell at him and say, I don't want you here. Get out of the car. All right? We get him out of the car. And we're parked in front of the hotel. We get out of the, we get out of the car. We go to the front door of this hotel. And we're banging on the door. Hey, we're here. We're here. We're really loud. We're banging. Nobody answers the door of this hotel. A manager from one of the hotels down the street comes over to let us in. Because he had keys to this hotel too, because the same lady owned the other hotel. And he said, because I could hear you down the street. What's going on? We get inside, and the hotel manager or the night manager who was there was only 2 doors away. She could not hear us. Like something was stopping us from being heard before we got in this hotel. That should have been the ominous feelings going in, that we should have known that the night was not going to go as well as we planned at that point. Right? So I decided to make a trip to the ladies' room, and my partner decides to do the walking tour with this night manager. So I get out of the restroom. They come to me, and I'm told that because this hotel has like an old theater hook to it. And so they went down to this old theater. Well, something shoved my partner down the stairs of this theater. So things were already starting to go awry that night. Okay. So everybody gets there. Psychic shows up. We're starting to do our stuff, set our equipment up. Nothing but problems with the equipment. Nothing would work right. Cameras wouldn't focus. Cameras wouldn't stay on. They'd be on for a couple of seconds or a couple of minutes, and then all of a sudden it would be like a TV, all that, all kinds of problems. Psychic says, there's a man here who doesn't want us here, and there's one room in particular he doesn't want us in. And I said, okay, that's cool. We'll avoid the room. Somehow we got in that room at some point during the night. And so we're investigating. And towards the end of the night, we decide to go to the parlor of this hotel and do an EVP dowsing rod session. And we're sitting in there, and it's dark, and the only light is coming. The front door had like stained glass on it. It was beautiful, absolutely beautiful. So that's the only light coming in to this room that we're sitting in. I'm on this small love seat, and and bear in mind there's like 8 other investigators in there with me at this time. Okay. If you like these stories, hit the like button, tap the screen. Keep tapping, keep tapping, keep tapping. So I'm doing the session, and one investigator says, there's someone coming up the hallway. And I ignored her. I looked back and I thought, I can't see nothing. I mean, it was dark. I don't know how she could see anything come up that hallway. And I continued with what I was doing. And as I'm sitting there, I see a shadow man. And he can't be more than 10 feet away from me. And he walks over, stands near this wall, and he's watching us. A dark shadow. I mean, I'm telling you, I can make out the features. I can see the shadow's nose even. I mean, not that he had a face, but shadow face. And everybody erupts at that moment. Get out in the name of blah 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 blah. So then he turns to the right and he walks out the stained glass door. You can see him do this with the light coming through. He walks out. And so I waited a couple minutes and I started the session back up. And this, I'm telling you, this is like 3 a.m., right? It's 3 a.m., witching hour, and all that stuff. And he comes back through. I see him come back through towards us. And he got about halfway there, and I went, okay, we're done. That's it. We're done for the night. Wrap it up. So we wrapped up all the equipment, loaded the cars up, drove home. Well, I get home. I'm exhausted. So I laid on the couch for a while. And then I could feel I could feel something heavy on top of me, like a person. And this is that twilight sleep thing that people have where you're like almost completely asleep, right? Where people tend to have paranormal experiences because they're almost completely asleep. And I remember feeling that. And I not only felt that, I could feel him right here or feel somebody right there. So I reached up and I could literally feel the arms or feel, his shoulders or whoever's shoulders it was right here. And I shoved the person off and told him to get on my house immediately. So I get on the phone and I'm talking to one of the team psychics. And it turns out it was the man from the hotel that didn't like me. But as it turned out, and I know it's as far fetched and wild as it sounds, according to her, I reminded him of someone he was married to, and that's why he followed me home. Wow. Okay. And that's why he didn't like me. Because notice the was, right? So they must have at some point gotten into it. So that's that story at that hotel. Sometimes I wonder why I go out, right? All right, tap that screen if you like these. Show me some love. Show me some likes. Facebook people, you guys do the same thing. Well, you can't tap, but hit those like buttons. TikTok, same thing. All right. Anyway, continuing on. That was that investigation. And you know what? I apologize. The thing with the hand going through the guy's head did not occur at that one hotel. I'm sorry. That was the Brookdale Lodge, the famous Brookdale Lodge. The Brookdale Lodge is located near Santa Cruz, California, and it has a brook literally running through it. And the story is a little girl drowned in the brook, and she, from time to time, you see, I get confused. There's been so many investigations. From time to time, you can hear the little girl sing and stuff like she's playing by the brook. I'm glad I caught that. Very bad. You know, that was an interesting place in and of itself. We heard splashing in the pool when we were down there. There's this big swimming pool that's kind of downstairs and off to the side, and we heard splashing in that pool while we were standing there. And I caught some of it on EVP. That's another place where I walked. And you know what was funny about that place? You know that scene? There's that scene in Shining where Jack Nicholson walks into the ballroom, and they're all standing there, and they turn around with their bottles and their glasses of booze, and they hold them up and invite them in. When I walked into the Brookdale Lodge, that's what I saw. There were a bunch of gangster type people because this was like during Prohibition was the height of this place. And so when I walked in there, I saw them all standing there. They were all talking and partying, and they had their big cigars, and all this was going on, and they were drinking. But they were all there, and they turned around to look at me, and then turned back to what they were doing. I remember that distinctly. I also remember being in an EVP session, a massive EVP session in a downstairs dining room, which was probably used to play poker and stuff back in the day, and feeling something really cold come towards me, and somebody saying that there was something there, so they couldn't figure out what it was. It had red eyes, and I remember being all freaked out because I said, "What was it coming to me for?" I also, during a later session in that room, felt someone tap my leg like this underneath the table. None of the investigators. So that happened. And then again in the dining room is where the hand where you see the arm reaching into the investigator's head. Creepy, creepy stuff. Creepy, creepy, creepy. The Murphy's Hotel, that's another one. Real active place. Very, 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 very active. Haunted by Eleanor. who is like, the stories on her differ, but Eleanor pretty much is like the head maid. She takes care of the hotel. Lots of stories coming out of there. Lots of activity. I mean, every time we go there, we get really good EVPs. In fact, again, back to the camera that that detects ghosts. We did a seance slash EVP session down up in the what they call the Mark Twain ballroom. Huge ballroom. Some of the stuff that happens in this ballroom is that the curtains will open and close on their own. They'll hear plates jingling, voices coming from this room. Because at one time during the Civil War, it was also used as a barracks. So they had a bunch of, they had a bunch of bunk beds and stuff stacked in there. So you got that energy running through there as well. But the kicker part of this hotel is that General Ulysses, or shall we say President Grant, stayed there. And there's actually a presidential suite upstairs. So we're in this Mark Twain ballroom, which is on the second floor. We're in this Mark Twain ballroom doing a session. Investigator Jose is there. Medium Sharon is there. I'm there. My mother was actually present on this one, and a couple of Jose's friends were there. And as we're sitting there, I went ahead and took some, because I like to be creative when I do stuff. So I went ahead and took some motion detectors and put them completely around the table, because the idea was I've got the camera, so if anything comes in the room or comes to the table, I would be able to see it. We'd be able to see the cameras trigger. And the whole time we were doing the session, we would see these cameras trigger, and then another camera would trigger like something was either coming or going. But we would see the cameras trigger on and trigger off, trigger on, trigger off. So I'm filming, and I'm watching Jose and Sharon, and all of a sudden Jose gets really blurry. Right then and there, I know what's going on. And so the first thing I say is, really calm, Jose, you're blurry. And he goes, and I feel tingly all over. And I said, well, why is that? And then Sharon says, you're not going to believe this. It's Grant. Grant is here, and he wants to talk to Jose. Well, Jose was having none of it. So Jose says, you do not have permission to enter my body. You do not have this permission to do this. And the second he said that, boom, he cleared up. Who knows, right? I mean, these are the things that happen when you're investigating like that. When you're doing sessions like that. This is what happens. But there's other things that have happened there. I mean, oh good, I just disappeared down to Mario Land on the screen. How nice. There's other things that happen there as well. I mean, when we've been there where doors will lock and we can't get into our rooms, and then all of a sudden they'll open. We've heard like footsteps in our rooms, like when we stayed the night there. We've heard footsteps, you know, in the rooms we're staying in. We were able to debunk some stuff too that was widely reported there. But I mean, because we're not there just to look for ghosts, right? We're not there to prove. We're not there to say there's ghosts there. We're there to look for stuff to see if there are ghosts there, right? So we have debunked stuff in that place. It's not like but this is the stuff that we actually experienced in this place. There's times where you can put your arms out, especially during an EVP session or something, like especially in that ballroom, where you can actually feel something touching your hand. I had reports from investigators that while they were sleeping, they felt like they were being touched. Karen Clark, who's one of our lead field psychics, actually has well, I'm not gonna say relationship, but she gets along with this ghost named John, and John really will give her really good EVP sessions, and she picks up a lot of really cool stuff, when she talks to him. Including one time we were there, and it was during one of our uh, events that we were there, one of our annual events that um, we heard a voice that sounded just like her husband. And I didn't hear this till like 2 a.m. because I didn't listen to the EVPs until later. And I remember we got upstairs and I said, you better call your husband because I think something might be wrong because it definitely sounded. I let her listen to it too. It sounded just like him, right? So I don't know if it was John trying to sound like him or not, because there's sessions where Karen's talking to John and she'll say, "Well, I love you, John," and then John will say, "I love you too. I love you back." That's the rapport they have. But I mean, I was sitting there one time. My mother again was there, and we were sitting around a table during one of our events, and doing a whole holding hands thing and all this, and we actually were able to get because there were like these water glasses on the table, and we were actually able to get the ghost to respond by banging the water glass. It sounded like somebody had a knife or a spoon and banged the side of the glass. Caught it all on EVP, and at the same time, there's a smaller kitchen in that room, in that ballroom, and so we could hear people walking around in that kitchen and moving stuff around in there. And this, I'm talking, Ghost Hunter's 3 a.m., right? So this is 4 a.m. We're there, and we can hear this going on in there. I remember what our first investigation there with my team and the reports that came out. I'm very meticulous about paperwork and reports. These guys have to fill out what time it happened, what did it feel like, all that stuff, right? And I got a full report from them. Plus, it was on the recorder that there was like a ball of energy that they were chasing around with the electromagnetic field meter, and they were chasing it around the Mark Twain ballroom, and they actually traced it, the size of it and everything. But they were chasing it around that room, and two of the investigators ended up having to leave the hotel because they got physically ill. They were throwing up from whatever that energy was. So it's a very active place, and there's stories. Eleanor um, has been known to. I don't know if it's a cook in the main kitchen, but there was a celebrity chef there, and I'm not going to say names because I don't want to get sued. But there was a celebrity chef there who goes in and makes changes in hotels, and and comments, and it's kind of nasty in comments and stuff like that. And apparently, from what I got from the hotel staff, Eleanor or somebody took a dislike to him and started throwing things like pots and pans at his head while he was on camera and while he was filming. And I kind of looked at the staff and said, "Well, I would have too." But yeah, Eleanor is very possessive of that hotel. She has been seen when people have had dinner in the main dining room. She's been seen standing there looking out the window. In fact, the last time we were there, there was a report within a day and a half of us being there that they had seen her standing there, because somebody had come and reported that they were really impressed because there was a employee in period clothing there, and the employees went, "No, wasn't us." There's another story of kids that because they have a night manager. Sometimes the doors open. Somehow they got in through the front door in the middle of the night, and this manager was somewhere else, maybe in the bathroom. I don't know where he was at in the hotel, and he ran into these kids. These kids, when he encountered them, they were running down the stairs, terrified, because they said a woman had chased them on the upper floor, and then she disappeared. So I guess Eleanor saw them and chased them down the stairs, chased them out, protecting the hotel. Lots of stories like that. Lots of stories from that hotel. And like I said, when we do go there, that's one that never disappoints, ever, because we know we're going to get good quality EVPs and everything out of there. When I get my website finally updated and done, you guys can go over there and check out our main website, because everything's over there. All that evidence, that we've gotten over the years in that hotel is there. Fascinating stuff. Um, Let me think. Let's see. There's Woman Opera House. There's Sacramento Theater Company. That's another one. Sacramento Theater Company is active. Had the weirdest thing happen there. We were down there on a hot afternoon. It must have been probably 105. It gets hot here. 105, 110. And the doors on the dressing room, where they do all the dressing stuff, uh, they're real thick because they're soundproofing because it's a theater, so they're real thick steel doors. And we had left the door open because it was hot. No breeze. We all went in there. There were about probably 10 of us. So we're kind of just looking around, and the door slammed by itself. No reason, no rhyme or reason. It just slammed by itself. Then off to the one end of that area, there's a kind of like a sound booth area, because there's a big theater there, and then there's the smaller like a rounder theater, around theater, theater in the round. So there's a sound booth right there, or a lighting booth, and there's reports of noises in there. So anyway, I'm standing at the back of the crowd, towards right in front of almost right in front of the sound booth area, and I start to hear footsteps come up behind me. And it was funny because it was like this person that came up behind me had keys, kind of like a superintendent, or a janitor, because every time they stepped down, the keys would go clink, 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 when he would step down. And it was a slow, deliberate step. And I thought, that's really creepy. So I moved. Again, I was a young investigator, so I was hanging with the psychics, because they can see what's going on. I'm no fool. So I go hanging with the psychics. And somebody else came in to stand where I was standing. And so I was watching her. And I see her standing there. But she's standing more like she's standing facing us, without her back being to that particular room. And I'm watching her, and as the sounds start, she's looking at me, and then she's looking over to her left, and she's looking back at me, looking over to her left, looking back at me. And I knew she heard it. So then as we started to move on in the room, she goes, "Did you hear that? You can't believe what I just heard." I said, "Yeah, I know. I heard it too." The other weird thing was there was this closet that had all these mannequins. Now, Sacramento, we're on an earthquake fault, so I'm going to give it that. The whole logical investigation thing. We're on an earthquake fault. I admit it. And they had this long closet, and I mean long. The closet must have gone in like 12 feet. 12 feet by maybe 4 feet. And they had those dress mannequins, because they're making costumes in there, right? So they had a bunch of these dress mannequins, and I think they were like two, like 1 2 1 2 1 2 1 2 1 2 1 2, all the way down this thing. When we opened the door, all the mannequins were swaying. Now, could it have been something paranormal, or could it have been an earthquake? I don't know, but I mean, it's funny because this was happening with these mannequins when we were there, and all this we were getting all this activity. Okay. Later on that night, I was with Karen Clark, and we were walking through the small theater, and I saw it when she said it. There was a pink orb that went by. Now, normally when you think about orbs, because you're always trying to debunk stuff, colored orbs usually are indicative of pollen. Pollen makes colored orbs, but this is inside, right? And there are reports at this theater of this pink orb. There's also reports that they hear a woman in what sounds like a woman in high heels walking around, right? So there was a Hungarian, and this is the story, okay? There was a Hungarian cross-dressing actor or actress named Pinky. That was the nickname. So that's who they think it is. So we saw this pink orb. Both Karen and I saw this pink orb. But Karen was scary because Karen was really excitable. So she would jump up and go, "Oh my God, did you see that?" And then I would jump about a foot. Don't do that. So we go back up to the costume room. And we get back up there and we start walking down. And this one hall, when you transgress that room towards the upper stage stuff, there's like this long hall, and there's like a bunch of storage boxes on either side. And it's a fairly thin little hall. But the creepy thing is that as we're going through this hall, as we're moving on either side, the boxes are moving like there's something running back. They're like right, like there's a rat on either side, right? Because you can see the boxes moving in and out as we're going, and they're moving in and out along with us as we're walking. Yikes, right? Now, I talked the other day on TikTok about the Woodland Opera House and Madame Macheska, the Polish opera singer. Madame Macheska, I think early 1900. I can't remember when she performed, but she performed in almost every theater on the West Coast. Every theater. And the Sacramento Theater Company is no different. Now, this is something that I always wondered, back then, because I was still a new investigator. I was only maybe like a year in, 2 years in. And I always wondered that if ghosts from one place would remember you at another location. And so I'm sitting on the stage up there, up at Sacramento Theater Company, getting ready to film, get my camera ready. And Karen comes out and she says, "Someone's looking for you." And I said, "What do you mean someone's looking for me?" And she says, "Yeah, it's an actress or something. She's looking for you." And I said, "Well, what do you mean?" And she goes, she speaks a foreign language. She's looking for you. I think her name is Majeska." And I said, "Wow." So she recognized me from the 2 or 3 times that I'd gone to Woodland Opera House. So she came to see me when I was at Sacramento Theater Company. Kind of cool. Kind of cool, right? Kind of cool. So they do recognize you from one location to another. Makes you wonder about the afterlife, right? One time I was out there filming. I went back to get some I'm going to say B-roll footage, right, at the exterior at that theater company. And as I was standing out there, something was on the roof because I had this blur that was walking across the top of there. Again, the video cameras, right? I could see this definite blur across the top of like walking back and forth across the top of the theater. Didn't know what it was, but I picked it up. So that happened there as well. Um, Let me think about a couple other places. Let's see. The Gold Country, Placerville. Placerville has a very active Main Street. A lot happened there. A lot. That used to be called Old Hangtown because that's where they did hangings there. There were actually two Hangman Street. There used to be a bar right on Main Street, a saloon. That is where the actual tree is, and I don't know if the stump used to be underneath this building, and they tore the building down, so I don't know if the stump's still there or what. Haven't been out there in a while. But the Chamber of Commerce building on Main Street also had a hanging tree. But it's interesting because when I worked in Placerville, I didn't realize how active it was until I would get off work and well, not off work, but like after work hours, because as a newspaper reporter, there were stories I had to cover after I got off work, and so I was parked by the community center, and the community center had these big windows that reflected out, and I was parked there, and I grabbed a burger, and I had a burger, and I was just kind of sitting there waiting because I was going to cover a self-defense class. And I happened to look up at my rearview mirror, and then I looked at my rearview mirror, and then I looked at the windows, and a man was walking behind me, dressed in Grim Reaper clothing, slow and deliberate. Looked up again, gone. The legend is that the hangman used to walk every day. Excuse me a second. Wow. Okay. That the hangman used to walk that route every day. The hangman in Placerville. So did I see him? Maybe I did. Who knows? Um, there's a bookstore. I don't know if it's a bookstore anyway. A lot of these places change hands a lot, so it's hard. Like now, like the county store became a toy store, and then the toy store became something else, and blah blah blah. There's a bookstore That's been haunted for years, and they say that people that have opened the door to go in the morning have heard like a tea party in there, ladies laughing and cups clanking and all this other stuff. But there's a lot of reports of that in this building. We go in there. I got to make sure I got the right place because there's so many of them. We go in there to do an investigation. We got some really cool EVPs and coal spots. We were following a lot of coal spots around the place, right? Place you wouldn't think is active, Woodland, California. Oh my gosh, Main Street in Woodland has all kinds of stuff going on. And as a newspaper reporter, before I thoroughly got into doing this, I thought it would be fun to cover stories on Main Street, and we actually did. There was a I don't know if it's still again, I don't know if it's still there, but there was a little bakery restaurant that had that frequent activity that we heard about. So we decided to go in there and do an investigation in there with the newspaper. Took a psychic in with us, and we had stuff happen in there. There were reports that people would walk in the morning and all the flour, the bags of flour have been open, and then the flour was spread all over the floor in this place. Hot and cold spots, things like that going on. So we go in, and I'm trying to play. I'm trying to play the big brave investigator as I go in, and I've never done this before. And we first thing we get is a cold spot in the kitchen. So I decided to chase it around. I'm writing my article and taking notes, and on my digital voice recorder, and I'm chasing this cold spot around. And I guess I irritated it really good, whatever this thing was, really big time, because my photographer that went down in the basement, because remember, a lot of these old towns, just like Old Town Sacramento or anywhere you go, especially if they're near a river, or even when they rebuild, they usually rebuild on top of the original town. So again, you've got the same thing in Placerville, where underneath you got the bricks, and then you got the main building. So there's always like a basement in there. And so my photographer was having a hell of a time. He was down in this basement area trying to take photos, and nothing was coming out. They were all blurry. Couldn't explain it. Could not explain it. So we come upstairs, and again, here I am chasing this cold spot around like an idiot. You do stupid things when you're first investigating. When you're a young investigator. I'm chasing this cold spot around like an idiot, and as we're taught, as I'm interviewing, the workers there, a clock that's on the wall, and it's up on the wall, okay, and like I said, bear in mind it's an earthquake area, but there's a clock on the wall, and this clock fell down, and I mean, it not only fell, it fell like that, boom. And if you remember that scene, I mean, this is why I was a green investigator, right? If you remember that scene in Poltergeist, where they actually witness the ghosts, right? And you see them like this, and they've got the coffee cups and the teacups, and they're like this, and their hands are shaking. This is me. That clock came flying off the wall, and I'm looking at it. I got my recorder, and I'm like, right, my hands shaking, right? And I looked at him, and I said, "That's gonna cover it for the questions. I'm done. That's it. That did it." You know. So my theory was that because I chased whatever that was around the building, I irritated it to the point that it did that in front of us. That's the kind of stuff you run into when you're out. Now we'll go back to Placerville, because I didn't want to leave out Woodland. Hang on a second. Let me do this. Credible story I have, again, before I was an official investigator. My friend Marisa was with me in the car. We used to watch In Search of, tell ghost stories on In Search of Unsolved Mysteries back in the old days. And my dad bought me this Sony Mavic camera. That's what all the ghost hunters on TV were using. And I thought it was really cool. So I knew of a haunted place up there called not the Carey House. Oh my gosh. The Vineyard House. That's it. I knew I'd remember it. And I said, let's take a drive up there and see what there is to see. We'll take the camera up, see if we can get some photos. And it was getting dark. We go driving up there. And We turn onto the road, everything's fine and dandy. And then all of a sudden, I feel this fear hit me. And I was so scared. And I remember I was just, my eyes were just glued forward on the road. And I heard this voice say, "Go home. Go home now." And so I drive up, and when you go up this road, you go to the monument where John Sutter's standing up there and he's pointing back down at his gold discovery. And this is in Coloma, where they discovered gold. So he's pointing down his gold discovery. I didn't even stop to look at anything. I turned, I did a little circle thing, started back down the road. And I didn't tell my friend anything of what was going on. I just knew I had to get the hell out of there. So I was just, I was just focused, bone focused, stone focused. Sorry. And my friend looks at, and my friend, and I remember hearing her say it. She says, "There's a fog and it's moving on the side of the road." And I remember going, "I don't care." And I drove all the way home. And it took me a good couple hours to shake that feeling. It was just absolute, absolute terror. Like if we had stopped to look at anything or even turned to look at anything, that it wasn't going to end well for us. Now, I've been back since then. I've gone up there a lot of times and it hasn't bothered me. I've been at there's a cemetery across the way from the place. The story is that one of the original owners that owned that vineyard house got syphilis, and it affected his brain. So his wife chained him up in the basement, and so of course, he went mad, and so that's where the haunting comes from. And he's there, and she's there, and they're buried across from the building in the cemetery. And so the story is that people that stay or live there, and I don't know if it's true anymore. Who knows? Who knows what's going on? The people that own it don't like open their doors to investigators. But the stories are that they can that if you're lying in bed and you're staying there, because for a while it was a B&B, and excuse me, I just hate glasses. While while you're lying in bed, so somebody will come and tuck you in at night. Things like that. The other stories are that they can never, for many, many years, no matter how much they try to grow grapevines there, the grapevines would always die. So who knows? And then the other story is to coincide with my friend seeing the fog moving near the side of the road, is that she crosses the road at night. They see her people see her apparition at night crossing back and forth on the road between the cemetery and the house. Because the house is directly across from the cemetery. So maybe that's what we saw. She saw. Maybe that's, I don't know. I wasn't I was in no mood to take a look at the side of the road to see the fog. So off off we went with that. There's a shop in Placerville. I don't Like I said, I don't know what it is now. It was an ice cream shop for a while, toy store, kind of candy store. So I don't know what it's become because like I said, they're ever changing. But we did an investigation in there, and there were reports of a little boy that would run around this place, and people would be sitting in there eating. I know the last time we did it was kind of like an ice cream restaurant, and people would be sitting in there eating, and they would hear the door open and close because there was a bell on the door. They could hear the bell ringing in there. And there were times when the faucets would turn on and off by themselves in this place. And there were all kinds of reports of stuff of activity in this place. We go in there to do the investigation, and we had some really weird, strange things happen. The bells did go off. We were sitting there just jawing at each other like late at night, and we did hear the door open. You could hear the bell ringing, just like people reported. Cold spots everywhere. Another thing that was experienced is they had like a stairway back there, and you could smell cigar smoke, real heavy cigar smoke. Now, granted, there were holes on the sides of the walls where maybe somebody next door, because somebody next door could have been smoking or something, but you could definitely smell cigar smoke. There was a back room in this area, and from what I'm understanding, and I'm trying to remember whether it was this building. I'm not going to claim anything at this point, that whether it was this building or the other building with the bookstore, where there was a little bar back there, a little saloon kind of thing. And we were sitting back there with a newspaper crew, and I actually picked up on an EVP what sounded like somebody taking a shot glass and slamming it down on top of a wooden table. In fact, when I heard the noise, I even came home and recreated the noise to prove it. But that's what it sounded like. It might have been the bookstore, the back of the bookstore. But this building, they had a scale in the back to weigh the ice cream. And the scale was unplugged. And while we're sitting there filming and doing sessions there, because Karen Clark was there, and they would, I guess the staff was seeing appearances of apparitions and stuff in this back area. And while we were back there, the scale came on by itself. And I actually caught it on film. So that happened. And Karen kept talking about animals. So I went over to the chamber, the Chamber of Commerce, and found out that, or the archives, and found out that at one time that had been a slaughterhouse back in there, which is where she picked up the animals. Anyway, I've talked my head off. So I hope you've been as entertained as I have felt entertaining you tonight. It's been a fun night for me to talk. Like I said, we're on the Clock app tonight, and we're on Facebook, and we're on Twitch, and hang on a second. God, this is gonna drive me crazy. We're on the Clock app tonight. We're on Facebook, and we're on Twitch, and we're on YouTube tonight, going live. But I just wanted to sit down and have a ghostly chit chat since I didn't have a guest tonight, and I thought I hope I entertained you with some spooky stories about ghostly hauntings. Right, that stuff we experience in these haunted buildings. All right. Anyway, tomorrow night, and I'm sorry, TikTok, this isn't going to happen for you guys, but like I said, Nancy Matz and I are going to do a special TikTok with just for you guys. Okay, we're going to go live together and talk ghosts and talk being psychic, and she might even do some readings for you guys. But tomorrow night, for my other group, for the California Haunts Radio Group, Nancy Matz will be here. We're going to do a Thursday night because I have a special guest on Friday that requested Friday. So Nancy's going to be with me tomorrow at 6:30 p.m. Pacific. And we're going to be talking ghosts. Why do they hang out? What makes them stay in a place? Tragedy, whatever. What makes them hang out in a place? That's what we're going to be talking about. Okay, that being said, if you like the show, and this goes for you guys on TikTok as well, if you like the show, be sure to hit the like button. Be sure to hit the share button. Be sure to hit that screen. Tap that screen. Also, follow. Follow. That goes for everybody along the spectrum. Follow. All right. If you're on YouTube again, subscribe if you haven't already. Always looking for subscribers. Check out all our videos. There's more than 480 videos over there. You're going to see something you like. Trust me. Got all kinds of topics. UFOs, cryptids, you name it. We cover the gauntlet. All right. Also, if you like the show, share it with 5 people. If you hated the show, share it with 5 of your enemies. We're equal opportunity here. We're just trying to get the word out. Word of mouth. We've been doing this 3 years in this format, and we've done really well with building everything up. In fact, as soon as I get done here, this is going to be uploaded to a podcast feed. So it's going to go out all over the world. So we're doing really well with all that. But I couldn't do it without you. I couldn't do it without you guys sharing it, helping me out and getting the word out. We're like the little show that could, right? That's what we're doing. Okay. For you guys over on TikTok, if you're interested in watching the live shows, since we can't go live yet with TikTok completely, go to youtube.com/@California Haunts Radio and check us out at CaliforniaHauntsRadio.com. Okay? Anyway, tomorrow night will be Nancy Matz. I will see you guys tomorrow and 6:30 p.m. Pacific, usual time. Let me get the cue up here so I can end this. And thank you so much for coming. I really appreciate it. And see ya.